This course is made up of a number of sections. Firstly, we'll consider a couple of key definitions, so we all know what we're talking about. The GDPR defines lots of terms, but we're just going to define two: data subjects and personal data. Then we'll move on to the principles. There are 6 core principles in the GDPR, so we'll devote a section to each of these. The first section is divided into 2 parts: the first principle and lawful basis, which is part of that first principle. In the other parts of this course, we'll take a look at the remaining principles known as purpose specification, data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, and security of processing. When we run these courses for our clients, we also do have a section on the rights of data subjects and on what to do if there's a breach to make sure that your breach reporting is compliant, but those aren't part of this YouTube channel. So if you'd like to get more information on those, just get in touch and we'll see what we can do to help. Let's consider a couple of key definitions within the GDPR. If you want more information or definitions of more terms within the GDPR, these can be found within Article 4 of the regulation. Firstly, the GDPR is all about data subjects. It exists to protect the rights and freedoms of the data subject. And a data subject is simply defined as a natural living person. So it's worth thinking about what the GDPR doesn't cover. Firstly, it doesn't cover business data. So, if Bob's email address is bob@bobscompany.com, that would be protected. It's Bob's own email address, even though it's his work email. On the other hand, the email address sales@bobscompany.com or accounts@bobscompany.com wouldn't be protected, as they relate to the business, not to an individual person. Secondly, as it applies to natural living people, the GDPR doesn't apply to non-living people. Once a person dies, they fall out of scope of the GDPR, although there may be other laws which do still have relevance to their data. And finally, it doesn't apply to non-people. Sorry, C3PO. So, if you're hoping to buy yourself a robot over the next few years, its data won't be protected. The second definition we need to tackle is personal data. The GDPR takes a broad definition of personal data, describing it as any information relating to an identified or identifiable natural person. The definition then goes on to say that an identifiable natural person is one who can be identified directly or indirectly, in particular by reference to an identifier such as a name, an identification number, location data, an online identifier, or one or more factors specific to the physical, physiological, genetic, mental, economic, cultural, or social identity of that natural person. So you can think of personal data as essentially any information about a person which on its own or with other information would allow you to identify the person to whom the information relates. Note also that the related information that would allow you to identify a person doesn't have to be information in your own possession. For example, the GDPR describes online identifiers. This would include an IP address or a mobile device identifier. You may not be able to identify a particular computer or user from an IP address, but because someone, the internet service provider, would be able to do so, it still counts as personal data. It's worth taking a moment here to identify the scope of the GDPR. Article 2 of the GDPR says that in the scope is any processing which happens wholly or partly by automated means. So that's your Excel files, your databases, online systems and such like. And also to any processing other than by automated means of personal data which form part of a filing system or is intended to form part of a filing system. So that takes in not only the filing cabinet in the corner of your office, but also the stack of paperwork on your desk that you intend to file one day. Okay, that's it for this part of the course. In the next part, we'll give you some examples of personal data and how they affect people's processing under the GDPR. Remember, if we can help you, if you'd like us to come and talk to you about GDPR or run training or audits for you and your team, contact us at www.theitservice.co.uk. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.